The Full Circle Podcast. Compelling interviews and incredible tales from Colorado's Western Slope, from the mountains to the desert. Christi Reece and her team hear from the movers, shakers, and characters of the Grand Valley and surrounding mountain towns that make the Western Slope the place we all love. You'll learn, you'll laugh, you'll love with The Full Circle. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Full Circle Podcast. I'm your host, Christi Reece, and I'm really excited today to welcome back Mike Bennett, now the city manager of the city of Grand Junction.
Well, thank you, Christi. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So you've been on the job almost a year and a half. Is that right?
Yeah. December was a year. So pushing a year and a half.
Yeah. Awesome. Tell me, what are the major changes you experienced from Fruita to Grand Junction?
Yeah. So I would say that there's been a number of things. I mean, obviously the volume is much different in Grand Junction, much greater. Mm-hmm. The budget is about 10 times the size.
10 times, wow.
The employee base is about 10 times as well. There's a lot of similarities, which is great. And there's the opportunity to work with a number of partners that I already have been working with for the last decade.
Yeah.
But I would say just the volume and the pace, there's a lot going on, and that's a fun challenge. There's incredible people to work with expertise in so many different areas, and it's fun to build on those relationships and partnerships from the last decade, but in a much bigger way.
Mm-hmm. And you, I think, had a reputation for really getting things done in Fruita and being very successful there. Do you feel that the systems are similar enough that you could have the same successes, or do you feel like, okay, I gotta do a new kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Not a vibe, but like a cadence.
Yeah, there's definitely some similarities in the system, form of government, those types of things. But I would say that it might take a little bit more time on some of the bigger projects, just because it's incredibly important to us as public servants to engage with the community. And so the community is much larger. To engage with people takes a lot. It takes more effort and maybe some deliberation or deliberate acts that, we have to make sure that we are not rushing through something too soon, and but still able to be nimble. So I hope that, and I feel like we've been able to accomplish a lot in a year, but I look incredibly forward to the future, because we're really set up now with a strategic plan, and we've done a lot of restructuring and opportunities to really move things forward.
Well, let's talk about that strategic plan. It started before you arrived as city manager, but then you kind of put a bow on it during the last year and a half. Is that right?
Yeah, we actually started it after, so I had already arrived, we had the election, and after each municipal election, we really dive into a tradition here in the city of Grand Junction and many other cities where you dive into updating the strategic plan. Mm-hmm. And so I was here for the entire process, and really we focused heavily on just starting. We had a facilitated process, and that was great. But some of the questions that I typically ask in those settings are, why do we exist as an organization? What are we best at? Mm-hmm. And that really led to where those priorities as a council really dived into what they all saw, and collectively through some exercises saw as the priorities. It really boiled down to, first and foremost, core services and the service delivery that we exist to provide to the community. And then housing, of course, was a high pillar. And then it really got into just the responsibility for our for managing the finances of the city, transparency, community engagement, communication, and then continuous improvement. One of our core values, that the last pillar is really focused on that efficiency of the government.
Right. So can you talk a little bit about core services? I mean, I think most people understand the services that the city provides, but I bet there are listeners and watchers out there that really don't know everything that the city does. And maybe you don't have a list right in front of you, but it's a long list of organizations and departments within the city.
It is. We're a full service city. So from utilities, water, sewer, solid waste, recycling, then you get into public safety, police, fire. We're the largest municipality on this side of the state. And so we not only cover a lot of services within the city limits, but there's a lot of assistance and partnerships beyond it for the whole Grand Junction area. We also have, of course, community development and engineering, transportation, parks and recreation, a very large parks and recreation department for this area. So there are so many services that we provide that it's fun because there's a huge variety. I get to work with a team, and the city manager role is really over operations and working with those experts throughout the organization on the operations, and then bringing recommendations for policy to the city council.
Mm-hmm. City council and the mayor. So you're at all of the city council meetings.
Yes.
Liaison, kind of.
Yeah. So my role is to participate in their policy discussions and bring the information that they would need for options and to make decisions. They all have, of course, careers outside of their roles on city council and who's the mayor at the time. But so they rely heavily on giving us direction to bring that information to them and have those discussions so that they can make sound decisions for a community, 70,000 people that might not always agree on everything, right? And so there's that balance of trying to find those shared interests and moving forward.
I was at the Community Impact Council breakfast this morning.
Okay.
And I believe it was John Marshall who was talking about, we don't always agree. It was a pretty good sized city, and we're not going to agree on everything, but it was a great talk. Anyway, in reading in preparation for our talk today, I did notice your emphasis on communication across agencies, but also with the public.
Yes.
I know that's really important to you. How have you tried to improve the communication with the public in our community?
Yeah, this runs deep for me. I mean, my undergrad was public relations, journalism, and then I went on for a Master of Public Administration. But I find that in community service and in public service, and especially as a municipality, people deeply care about what's going on, right? Especially because, and most everything impacts them in some way or fashion. Hopefully when things are going really smoothly, they don't have to think about it, but there's always something going on. And even though we might not always agree on things, I find that we want to earn the trust of the community by people understanding why we're doing what we're doing, when things are happening, strive as much as possible to avoid surprises and engage so that we are being nimble and adaptable. And there's a lot of constraints, and there's laws, and there's, financial constraints and all types of things. But I find that if the more we are open and transparent, and not just by the law, but by really striving, we can earn trust. We need that trust as a city. We need the benefit of the doubt when we try something and it might not quite hit the mark, and we can admit it, and we'll adjust that strategy so that we are focused on particular outcomes and that the community understands that. So some of the new things we're doing, we've definitely built and we just, as of yesterday, completed hiring for our full communications and engagement team, which is an office in the city manager's office. And
wonderful.
Kelsey Coleman is our communications and engagement manager, and she has an incredible team. She's an incredible leader. She came from CMU to the city this past year. And we have introduced things like, just this morning, I was at Perdita's Coffee doing what's called community conversations. And so it's a spin-off of the Coffee with the Manager that's been traditional, but we're adding more of those in different settings, different topics, different locations.
And also different staff, not just you?
Yes, and sometimes we have different guests, whether they're community partners or other staff members at the city. The city council is doing what's called the Meet You There campaign, where there are larger town halls that create a different atmosphere than 3 minutes at the beginning of a city council meeting to make comment, where you can come and engage. And then smaller settings where individually those council members are meeting in different locations or within their districts to engage in a more informal setting. Plus, we took what was traditionally a council briefing that not many people saw in the past, and we changed it to what's called the City Update, and that's on gjcity.org, and we update that every 2 weeks or twice a month. And it's a great snapshot.
It is a great snapshot.
What we're up to, what we're accomplishing, a lot of operational updates, and so we have many more. I could just keep going on, but we are trying to really, our goal is to over communicate and not assume that people know what we're working on.
Well, and I like what you said about you're trying to be transparent, but I think it's also important that you have listening opportunities from the public.
Yes.
Like you said, a city council meeting, if you get up to speak there, the time is very short, and there's so many different viewpoints generally being shared.
Right.
And so having more forums for people to express their concerns or hopefully their kudos too.
Right.
Yeah, that's always nice.
Yeah.
So what do you think are some of the biggest successes that you've had since you've been city manager of Grand Junction?
One of the things that I'm most passionate about and has been a success during this year is definitely just building on the good team that we already had and building that team. So we've done a lot of restructuring to be a little more nimble in decision making and responsive, and that we created a deputy city manager, Kimberly Bolin, and there's
great.
a handful of departments that those directors now report directly through her. And then we have a CFO, a chief financial officer, Jay Valentine, who has a lot of experience with the city. And there's a few departments that report directly through Jay, and then the remaining report directly through me. And between Kelsey, Jay, and Kimberly and I, with kind of our executive leadership team, we're able to work closely together, be on the same page, have those different perspectives, because we all have different perspectives, and then work with all the directors, which is our broader senior leadership team at the city. And so we've been really focused on culture, and three things that we've been focused on over this year has really been building upon the core values, which is continuous improvement, where we are diving into many process mapping and process strategies and finding efficiency in time and those types of things. And then we have collaborative partnerships where we are really looking at how we find shared interest and shared outcomes with either external partners, and there's many that the city works with.
For example, healthcare,
CMU, all of our economic development partners like GJEP and the Business Incubator Center and the Chamber of Commerce. And so the list is pretty endless. We have public land agencies and other, many different partners, but really aligning where and the county and other government entities. So we really try to, instead of focus on where we may not agree, is where are those shared interests and how do we build on the momentum in those outcomes. And then exemplary service has been a big focus. That's our third core value, and that's really focused on how do we have a lot of transactions, transactionary, normal day-to-day things that are happening with the city, whether someone's paying a bill or submitting an application or engaging with people out doing work in the parks or wherever it may be. How do we turn those into, special experiences, right? And I know that might sound a little fluffy, but it's really important to us that people feel and see the personal side of the people that work at the city and their passion and their love for serving this community. And so highlighting those successes is part of our communication plan as well. We have 4 commitments that we are focused on to earn the trust of the community. And that's how we act with purpose and remember that we are public servants that work at the city, that the community comes before self, that our collective goals are before our individual desires or interests, how we communicate with clarity and over communicate. We talked about that already. The third is really how we collaborate with intention and that focus on the shared interests, and then focusing on outcomes. I hope that as we are communicating with the public over the years and the accomplishments we're talking about, they're not tied to what we spent on something. It's what the outcome of something was and what the effort was to get there.
No, I don't think that you said that it seems a little fluffy when you talk about, having the city employees be, they are the representatives of this city that we all take so much pride in. And I'm sure as city employees, they take a lot of pride in it too. And it's really nice when that shows.
They do. And I push back when people say it's fluffy. I believe in it 100%. What I spent time last week in front of about 600 or more of our employees speaking about these things and what they can what they know I'm committed to as the CEO of the city organization with them. And I also talked about what the expectations of the directors are, and what the expectations of, those 4 commitments that are expectations of all the employees in the city. And I'm losing my headphones here.
You have to put them up high.
There we go. But spending that time with all the employees last week, and a lot of sessions in the first year building up to it, it was just really focused on how meaningful the work is we do. It's not always easy. It's tough work. It's long hours. You can't brainstorm without critique. I mean, we work in a fishbowl. But at the same time, it's incredibly impactful and meaningful, and
really
you can go home
work
on a tough day and know that you had a positive impact on the community. And we attract a lot of people that really believe in that, whether it's in the recreation field or public safety, police, fire, all the different service areas. And it is fun in my role to work with all of them and have that variety, and also acknowledge I'm not an expert at everything we do, but I'm going to rely on this team of experts. And if we stay true to our fundamentals and our best practices, our core values, and those 4 commitments, we're going to get through and be successful at whatever comes our way.
What does your typical day look like? I mean, how many meetings are you in every week?
A lot. A lot of meetings. And whether that's one-on-ones with directors or our executive team, or one-on-ones with city council members, or community engagements. Today we've had a couple of those. Meeting with partners. There's a lot of meetings in that fashion. I like to make sure to carve time to just stay caught up with your typical email and phone calls and those kinds of things. We have a lot of city council meetings, right? So at least 4 a month, but sometimes other types of engagements. And the preparation for those takes a lot of time, a lot of team meetings for preparing the information we're bringing, or the presentations, what the discussions, are to be had. And so a week like this week, we have 2 council meetings, we've a number of engagements, a number of internal meetings, but it's a good variety. And sometimes that the day you planned is not the day that turns out, which I think a lot of people can probably relate to.
Right, in a lot of industries. Yeah, we were talking about that with somebody today. People and properties, you just never know what kind of curveball you're going to get. And who knows what's going to come up in your world.
Sure.
What do you think are some of the biggest challenges facing the city of Grand Junction right now?
I think there's a few different challenges. One that is a priority that we're working on, but it's not an easy overnight fix, but it's a massive, detailed process when it comes to development, right? And we're working with a task force. You're on that task force, the Housing Affordability Task Force, our staff team. It's a detailed process when people go through development. So there's a lot that engineers, that partner agencies are reviewing to make sure that plans meet what's on the laws of the community, and we have to adjust those codes as we run into new scenarios and new technologies and new trends. And so that's a big area where we have room for more efficiency and turnaround time. And we're doing process improvement on that. We're doing code evaluation so that we can update the code. It's a new scenario with this type of committee, and you used to have a planning commission and a city council. And I think we've really narrowed down. It took a little bit longer than we thought, but we've narrowed down a process. So there's some great collective debate and discussion about what's the overall best way to handle these situations, because there's not one way with policy. And so that's one area.
I'd like to speak to that a little bit, because I think a lot of people maybe don't know what we do in those meetings. And there are a lot of really experienced developers and builders in there that are bringing forth items that are holding up developments and making them take longer or take extra steps and things like that. So we're trying to refine the process and still make sure we are addressing the safety issues, the things that are mandated from the state or the feds, but trying to make the process a little bit easier, if it can be. I mean, it's not easy.
And what's great about having those experts in the room is that we can still talk about, okay, ultimately we all agree on this outcome, but maybe there's a timing shift in when something's required before the end result, and understanding the construction side and the development side, and having those perspectives mixed in with the review side can really help us identify. And I've seen this throughout my career, where you can, when you have those productive conversations, you can actually start identifying even sometimes minor shifts that still result in the same outcome, but in a much more efficient way.
So housing is high on the list. What other kinds of projects or collaborations are you working on to try to further some affordable housing options in our community?
We work closely with the Grand Junction Housing Authority, and then Housing Resources, Habitat. Those are three of our more common entity, or our really active entities in the area that are focusing on the lower AMI affordable housing type units, whether it's rent or for purchase. And I see that those partnerships only building over time. We have a project that's been in the works even before I arrived at the city. It's called the Salt Flats, and Grand Junction Housing Authority has a component working with a few developers on a portion of that land. We went through an RFP process, and we're working with a master developer, but there's multiple developers there with some for purchase and for rent. Those take a long time because each developer has to they have to complete that capital stack. That's not only the cost to build, but it's the cost to keep the price low and or the rent low. And so that's a long-term project. It's a project where the city was able to obtain funding to land bank or to acquire the land for a certain mix of affordable housing that met certain state requirements and has to be built out within 10 years. And this summer we should see some of the first units that are coming from a group called Rural Homes, and those will be for purchase, and the Housing Authority is going to manage those deed restrictions.
That's exciting. It's not an easy fix, as we all know. If it was, all communities across the nation wouldn't be talking about the same thing.
Right. We're
all in the same boat. Affordable housing is a big topic, and especially in Colorado. And I feel really lucky here. When I travel, people say, "What is it about Grand Junction that draws people there?" And I said, "Well, there's so many things: the recreation and the beauty, but also if you want to live in Colorado and you can't afford to live in a ski town and you don't want to deal with Front Range traffic, we're your option, and we're a really good option." And I'm excited when people come discover us.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. It's fun to hear those stories. So many people that are here that, we're here for a vacation, recreation, passing through, working as a consultant, and falling in love and making it their home, for sure.
I don't really want to talk about the downtown parking thing because I think it's been beat to death. But what do you think are the biggest lessons learned?
Yeah, I think the lesson with that one is, even though there's a lot of constraints, the engagement still helps, right? And what I mean by that is we held a session before the holidays and then after the holidays with business owners, and many came to those sessions, and it was great. And while that system, of course, is simply one that the fees pay for the costs, and it's to turn over parking spaces, it doesn't mean that, and there's constraints, right? We can't just, if we go all free, that means, in the majority of businesses share that sentiment, that means some of these spaces are going to be full all day long, and customers are going to have some challenges, right? But at the same time, that doesn't mean that because there's constraints, there aren't modifications we can make. And we received a lot of great feedback from business owners where we have made modifications since then. So we've changed some 2-hour to 4-hour. We've created some more long-term parking. And it's not perfect, but I think we can constantly make some improvements. It's just the education and the understanding of there are some constraints to the system, that dialogue, I think, has been productive, for sure. And
part of your overall plan to improve communication with the city,
definitely
the community members.
Yeah, real engagement where we are listening and then applying everything we can. And if we can't, explaining why we're not able to.
Mm-hmm. One thing that we absolutely have to talk about is the new recreation center.
Yes.
That's getting close.
Yeah, we're very excited.
Yeah. It's been a long time coming.
It has, yeah. It's a big center. If you've seen, even now, FCI has been an incredible contractor on that project. We often get asked when the opening date is. It's before the end of the year. I know that, and towards the end of the year. But they are making great progress, and it's fun to see that progress. And I think there's a lot of excitement to experience this center that's going to be state of the art for municipal recreation centers.
We got to tour it earlier in the construction process. I think maybe end of last summer. Just so exciting to see all the elements and how the design has changed from the beginning concepts, and so many wonderful things added, actually.
Mm-hmm. And it's amazing, the views out there. You can see all the landmarks, all at 360 out in that location as well, and it's great.
Thinking ahead on that, once that center is completed and landscaped and everything, what are the next stages for Matchett Park?
Yeah, that's a great question. The first phase is actually funded with some success of the recreation department in obtaining a number of grants to match each other. That we have a first phase where there'll be an artificial turf field, a multi-purpose field, more parking, and an outdoor kind of event space that comes out of the indoor event spaces that can open up, almost like they can open up into that outdoor space. In the future, there's also we're working with Cop MOBA right now. There are some trails and kind of a bike park that's out there. But in the future, you'll see more field space and things like that. There's a number of phases. It depends on funding. It depends on community needs as well. But there's a lot of area to continually grow out there, and there's always a need for more youth field space for different sports and things like that.
And I think I hear things and I go, I don't know if that's reality or not. Oh, they're going to do a bike park, or they're going to do this or that, and so is there a place where people can go and see status updates on those kind of things for that area? Yeah,
and if we don't have enough of it, we will add it. But we Engage GJ has a number of our bigger projects, and then we put updates related to those. And I know there's a Matchett Park update, and I believe it links, and if not, we can get that added, but it links to some of the plans for the future. Now, those plans can adapt a little bit based on community need and funding and opportunities, but it gives you a good picture of what the hope is for that area.
Will you be in the gym working out first day of operations?
I really should.
Yeah, have some pictures
I want to
of
be
you
there. I want to be there
on
when
the
it's
treadmill or
open.
something.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah,
and there's the multiple pools, and they're going to be beautiful, and the view when you get up, if you want to do the water slide, you're going to be way up there and see everything.
That's something to be really proud of.
Yeah.
In conjunction with that, can you talk a little bit about the Orchard Mesa pool and what the current status is of that?
Yes. Yeah, that's one where our current council is really interested in making sure that we turn over every stone and figure out any opportunity we have, in whether it's some form of public-private partnership, some way of figuring out if there's a solution or not for that pool long term. That includes the fact that we know $8 million to get the pool up to a long-term position is a big challenge, and doing it alone on our own as a city is not necessarily the focus that we have right now. But first and foremost, where we're at right now is a request to District 51 to see if they have any desire in donating or selling the land and the building to the city or not. That would take more conversations, but we actually don't own it, and we are the operator there. And there was a deal struck before I started at the city where there's funding set aside for demolition by Mesa County, the school district, and the city of Grand Junction, but they gave us through the end of this year to continue looking at it was really to coincide with the recreation center, and we won't get a good picture because the rec center won't open till closer to the end of the year. So we'd like to have some more time to evaluate that, but there's got to be, to actually seek out real partnerships. We have to know if there's an option for us to own the land first.
So is the pool in operation currently? It
is in operation currently. There are times where things go out, and we have paid to fix those, and we're continuing to operate it.
Yeah. But it's an expensive operation with the state of everything.
We do subsidize each user much higher than, say, Lincoln Park Pool.
Awesome. I was reading about the sales tax revenue being up, which is really exciting.
Yeah, that's always exciting.
When you look at the trends in sales tax, what do you attribute that to mostly?
We also watch consumer spending at a national level, and over the holidays, where our January sales tax numbers, they reflect spending in the city in December, right? They collected it at the storefronts in December, reported and collected to the city in January. And that's more than 1/12 of our revenue. And sales tax, for those who are listening, is our largest form of revenue going back into these core services that we provide. So it's a big deal that we watch. Yeah. It's a big deal because it means business is doing better, the economy is doing better locally. And local consumer spending was slightly outpacing national. That really helped tip the scale for us at the start of this year. We've, as you're aware, in the Grand Junction area for a number of years, we were seeing some tremendous sales tax growth. And so we were seeing double-digit year-over-year percentage growth, and that was wonderful. And even through the pandemic, we had like incredibly good years, and where we didn't know what was going to happen, right? And but then it started plateauing, and that's normal. There's usually those cycles. The great thing is it didn't start diving, right? So it plateaued a bit. It's always stayed a slightly higher, but now we're seeing 4% above the year before, and that. We'd like to see that trend continue to go in the right direction there, but people were spending more money in the local businesses, and that's great. We saw a 5%, I think it was, increase in just downtown, for example.
And do any of the business owners think that the warmer weather had something to do with? I mean, obviously some industries suffered. It was a tough year for ski areas in our Powderhorn, which I love so much. But the weather may have brought more tourists into town.
I don't know for sure, but that is a very educated guess, I would say, from our standpoint. When you talk to someone like Brandon Stam with the DDA, he's going to say that they notice trends in general with weather in the downtown, for example. And I do believe that we've always seen upticks in those outside of maybe some holiday shopping. We've always seen upticks in this area when the weather's great and we have more people visiting. We've seen sustained visitor counts. We've definitely seen a need. We have a need for more hotels because hotel rooms are being booked in a good way, and so we're excited for some of those types of developments to take place.
What kind of issues is the city thinking about with the potential lack of water in our rivers?
So we are part of a partnership called DRIP, and that is Clifton Water, Ute Water, and the City of Grand Junction Water. And that partnership over the years has actually adjusted the structure of the way we charge for water. So you use more water, you pay more. And so that's built into the system in general. And then next week, we have a press conference coming up where we'll, as in a partnership with DRIP, that is education and opportunities for people to voluntarily reduce the water they're using. Over the years, we've also adapted in our development to create the opportunities for not just the traditional lawn that uses more water to other opportunities that use drip systems and things like that. And we have to monitor where we're at to make sure if anything triggers, mandatory restrictions. We get that asked a lot. Why aren't we doing that just yet? We haven't hit those types of markers, but we are going to amplify the education and encouragement for using less water. And then again, that the system at which people use and pay more does have some benefit, whether it's a good year or a bad year.
Yeah. It's scary to look at the mountains.
Oh,
and
definitely.
see how little snow there is.
Yep.
All right. Topic on everybody's mind, single stream recycling.
Oh, yeah.
This is exciting.
This is. I think the city had some great foresight, again, before I started, where really started looking ahead, really paying attention to a group of large corporations that are giving funding to the state of Colorado, groups like Procter & Gamble, where they have found that in their business model, it's cheaper to buy recycled goods and put money into recycling rather than creating from scratch, right? Some of their products. And that has led to, and the city was watching that, and that has led to the opportunity where we can expand and also get reimbursement for some of those costs. And we were very successful in this past year in getting the largest grant the city's ever received. So it was over $9 million. Our team did a great job seeking that grant. And then we have a public-private partnership with Bruin Waste. And what all this culminates to is a regional manufacturer, a materials recovery facility. We call it a MRF. And that is under construction. We've ordered very high-tech equipment with that grant, with the grant funding. And that's enabling, first and foremost, this regional center where communities all across Western Colorado and other providers, even private providers, can bring these materials here rather than trucking those materials, recycled goods, to Salt Lake, Denver, or Las Vegas. Yeah. And then they can actually be processed and put back in the market from Grand Junction, which is pretty cool.
That's exciting.
But that's the private side running that, but we are a partner. So it allows us now to take a small system we purchased as a city years ago, but did not have the capacity to serve every resident, one for just recycling, even when it wasn't single stream, but now be enabled by the end of 2027 that all residents will have that opportunity to have single stream recycling. And those already experiencing recycling, the changeover just occurred, right? So it's great. Yeah.
Any other projects coming up that you want to share that maybe we haven't talked about yet?
Sure. One that I'm excited about is one of the first paved path on top of a canal that is under construction along Patterson. It's about a mile stretch. You can drive down Patterson. You'll see,
it's going on right now,
and keep heading that direction, and you'll see that trail being constructed. And that's a great partnership between the city and the GVIC, the Grand Valley Irrigation Canal Company, and so that's been a long time in the making, and and so we're excited about seeing this first stretch be a success, and hopefully being able to build on that, where there's positive impacts to both the canal company, the city, the residents, and so we're excited for that. We have a number of road projects that are finishing up from the original vote in 2019 for extra bonds for projects. The next phase of Four Canyons. We have improvements on a number of roadways. I won't go through the whole list, but so that's exciting. And those improvements are both for a lot of those are for drivers. Some of those are also for the multimodal components along those stretches as well. There's a connection between kind of the rail yard, Walmart area and downtown that's being on Crosby, that's being worked on. There's a number of projects that CDOT's working on at the same time. So we have a lot of construction going on with roads. We're excited about a replacement and expansion project that started last year, and we're in our second year, just like the rec center, but with the Persico wastewater treatment facility. Not always what people are maybe focused
on. The glamorous
but I think it's
story.
But it's important that people realize that we are always planning ahead. Just like with water, we're talking about water projects 2050 and beyond. We have to make sure that we have sewer capacity many years ahead, so that we don't
want to get caught with our pants down.
No, we did not. We did not. We've seen other communities happen. That's happened, right? Yeah. Nice pun.
Thanks. Well, I think that Grand Junction is lucky to have you.
No, thanks.
And I think you're such an asset to our community, and I hope you will stay in this position for many, many years. And I appreciate your commitment to our community and making it a better place to live all the time.
Oh, that means a lot coming from you. I appreciate it. My family and I love it here. I think having the opportunity to move from Fruita to Grand Junction was a long-term move for us. And while you can't predict the future, we're committed. We want to be here a long time. And the decisions I think we're making as an organization and with our city council and with the community is, there's always that challenge of kind of the immediate solve something, but we always have to think about the long term. And so that's a big focus of ours, and making sure that we're setting that foundation so we're making long-term decisions in a way that is not reactive, but it's proactive in a way that benefits the community members here.
Yeah. So last time to kind of plug how people can communicate with you, learn more about what's going on in the city. The website is gjcity.org. And they can go find about how they can have coffee with you.
Yes, with the community conversations. We have a number of, at least one a month, if not more. And then the city update on gjcity.org as well. Of course, Engage GJ has project-based engagement and updates, but the city update is a good way that people can just stay up to speed. It's easy to find on the website. It's quick to scan. I think I really hope people will embrace that over time, and we can adjust and make improvements as needed. But it's a team effort at the city putting that together, and it's an opportunity for us to share what we're doing, what's coming up, and for people to feel involved as well. And then when they're engaging in all these other settings, opportunity for us to listen and take that feedback in.
And there's always opportunities for people to get on boards and volunteer organizations within the city. Yes, that information is on that website as well.
Yeah, if you want to serve your community, there's a number of boards in the community as well, but the city itself has a number of boards and commissions where people can serve in various areas that might be something they're passionate about. And so we always have openings that the city council is doing interviews and appointments for.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here today. I know your time is valuable, and we appreciate you talking with us, and we love sharing everything that's going on in our great city. So,
thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Okay. Thanks to all of our listeners and watchers. This is the Full Circle Podcast, and we'll see you next time. Bye. Thanks for listening. This is Christi Reece signing out from the Full Circle Podcast.